Welcome to RoadWorthy, the interactive disc that will expand and develop your driving skills. In RoadWorthy, the accent is on interaction, so that you can explore in total safety the effects of different driving decisions and actions. Discover at first hand how to prevent accidents and minimize risk, and learn the techniques that give you ultimate control.
This is the RoadWorthy main map. All sections of the programme can be reached from here. Move the pointer over each of the tiles to discover what they represent. If you click on a tile, you'll be offered the choice of previewing your selection or watching the whole topic.
Road accidents are the major cause of accidental death in Britain, claiming 5,000 lives every year. That's equivalent to the whole population of this large village. And 250,000 people, the population of a city, are injured. Statisticians tell us that the average driver encounters a life-threatening driving situation once every 10 years. Though it depends on how much you drive and, more significantly, on how you drive. The huge majority of accidents are caused by human behaviour, often because drivers choose to behave in a manner that they know to be dangerous. Perception plays a major role in a driver's behaviour. The success of various traffic calming devices that are appearing in city streets is based on changing drivers' perception. By changing the way in which drivers see something, you change the way in which they behave. For example, where drivers have to drive over elevated paved crossing points, they're made to feel that they're driving onto the pedestrian's territory. Consequently, they drive very slowly and give way to pedestrians more willingly. The roadworthy approach minimizes risk by making dangers more obvious. When this is combined with simple driving techniques that allow greater safety margins, you can avoid most dangerous situations and deal safely with those that do occur. Being a roadworthy driver is your best defense against death or injury on the road. The roadworthy approach to driving provides a path to greater mental and physical well-being. The relationship between improving your driving and increasing your well-being is like a continuous loop. Any improvement in your driving makes you feel more relaxed and in control, improving your sense of well-being. This feeds back into your driving, leading to increased confidence and alertness. Alternatively, you might start by improving your fitness. Driving, being both a mental and physical activity, benefits. Recognizing this improvement boosts your sense of well-being. If you want to see a fast improvement, the secret is to work on the whole loop. Clinical studies have shown that drivers, particularly high-mileage business drivers, can become stressed through driving. This stress has been linked to poor working performance, insomnia, alcohol and drug abuse, heart attacks and strokes, poor relationships and broken marriages. Stress impairs driving performance, and mistakes become more frequent, further increasing stress levels. But the process can be reversed. You can expect the roadworthy approach to reduce stress, minimize fatigue, give peace of mind, increase confidence, and enhance self-esteem. Driving can really take it out of your internal batteries. The resulting fatigue could be fatal, and it can leave you with no energy to enjoy life at your journey's end. Unfortunately, most people only ever experience driving in this way, as an energy drain. The RoadWorthy approach allows you to reverse this energy flow. When driving is boring, you can minimize the drain on your energy, keeping fatigue and frustration at bay. And often you can use driving as an energizing activity, as more of a recreation than a chore. After a draining day at the office, RoadWorthy drivers top up their batteries on the drive home. The RoadWorthy approach minimizes the cost of driving in two ways, by avoiding accidents and by reducing running costs. The annual cost of road accidents in the UK is around £4 billion. This includes emergency services and medical costs, loss of business output and personal income, repairs and replacements, and a sum covering suffering and the effects of disablement. Everyone has to bear this cost, not just those involved in accidents. It's recovered through taxation, higher prices for goods and services, and increased insurance premiums. Click on the parts of the car to see how you can reduce running costs. Good drivers commonly use at least 10% less fuel than other drivers while achieving the same average speed. The forward planning and early preparation for hazards that are the keys to fuel economy also enhance safety. Gearboxes in modern cars shouldn't need attention over the life of the car, so long as they're used properly. Riding the clutch, slipping the clutch instead of changing down, and excessive clutch slip when moving off are all common bad habits. By using the clutch more skillfully, you can reduce clutch replacement costs to half or less of the average. Drivers can easily cause premature engine wear through insensitive use. Over-revving, labouring, and hard use of the engine when it's cold quickly take their toll. RoadWorthy drivers develop a rapport with the machinery and minimise both the cost of engine repairs and the downtime. It's not unusual for good drivers to make their tyres last twice as long as those on similar cars. It's a natural outcome of a smooth, well-planned driving style. Many drivers rely on hard use of their brakes to get them out of trouble. Good drivers usually avoid getting into trouble in the first place, often without braking at all. So brake life can be more than doubled by adopting the RoadWorthy approach. This section allows you to explore the foundations of the roadworthy approach, the human capabilities and limitations of the driver, and the mechanical capabilities and limitations of the car. Your state of mind is the single most important factor in how well you drive, but physical factors are also important. In this module, you can explore the relationship between the human body and driving ability, and the effects of illness, drugs and drink on driving performance. The Roadworthy User's Guide contains additional information on your attitude towards driving. Are you fit to drive? If you enjoy good health and are reasonably fit, you have the right foundations on which to build driving skills. On the other hand, if you're already an excellent driver but you neglect your health and fitness, your driving performance will suffer. Take reaction time, for example. See how far you'd travel at 60 miles per hour in the time it takes to react to a hazard in various states of health and fitness. If you're in good health and well rested, you might react in 0.6 seconds. After a heavy meal, 0.8 seconds. When you're tired, 1 second. If you're drowsy or in poor health, 2 seconds or even longer. Of course, it's not just the speed of your thinking that's affected, but also the clarity. Move on to explore various aspects of driving fitness. Click on any aspect of driving fitness. The links between physical fitness and mental performance are well established. By keeping reasonably fit, you're more alert, have faster reactions, resist fatigue better and think more clearly, all of which helps your driving. Regular exercise improves the efficiency of your heart and lungs, so more oxygen gets pumped to your brain. Try taking a few really deep breaths right now and see what happens to your alertness and the tensions in your body. Don't get the impression that to be a good driver you've got to train for the Olympics. Just do something active whenever you get the opportunity. And remember to take a few slow, deep breaths whenever you feel anxious or if your concentration starts to flag. Sight is obviously the most important sense in driving. How good is yours? The only way to be sure is by having regular eye tests. Peripheral vision plays a major role in driving, as most of what you see is actually outside the sharp central field of vision. Check yours by swinging your arms out to the side while staring straight at the middle of the screen until both arms disappear. If you find the angle is much less than 90 degrees on either side, take special care to check that side frequently when you're driving. Spectacles or sunglasses with thick frames obstruct your peripheral vision and should be avoided. Your hearing also provides a lot of valuable driving information, such as the sound of different road surfaces, mechanical noises, tyre noise, and the presence of other road users. To drive well, you must make good use of your sense of touch. Not just the feel of the controls and of the balance of the car, but also the tensions and strains within your body. Fatigue slows down your mental and physical responses and reduces the clarity of your thinking. We all experience peaks of alertness and troughs of fatigue every day. Get to know when your troughs occur and try to avoid driving during them. To avoid fatigue when you're driving, ensure that you're properly rested before you start. Take a break every 2 or 3 hours. Avoid heavy meals, but eat before you feel hungry. Keep the car well ventilated and avoid boredom by listening to the radio, a tape or CD. The symptoms of fatigue may be obvious, such as yawning and drowsiness, or you may start to get aches and pains. It's a particularly dangerous sign if you find yourself suddenly bearing down on another vehicle with no recollection of getting closer to it. Whenever you feel fatigue coming on, stop at the first safe place, such as a lay-by or a service station. See whether you can shake it off by taking a brisk walk or a jog. If you can't, take a nap. Even a few minutes' sleep may be enough to revive and refresh you. Relaxation starts with good posture. Do you feel even pressure and support from the whole seat, or are there pressure points? Too much weight here? Move your seat back. Too much pressure here? Move your seat forward. Is there support here? If not, shift your pelvis back or adjust the lower back support. Any strain here? Then adjust the backrest to provide better support. Your arms should be comfortably bent. If the seat's adjustable for height, bear in mind that the higher you sit, the better your view. It's easier to relax in loose-fitting casual clothes. When you have to wear formal, business clothes, remove restrictive jackets, loosen your tie, change high-heeled shoes for flat ones. To relax, you need a comfortable temperature and plenty of fresh air. If you have a choice of cars, a quieter model is more relaxing to drive, and stow loose items carefully to avoid irritating rattles. You may be stressed about issues that are unconnected with driving. Make allowance for the tiring effect of driving under stress. The most common type of driving stress arises from a feeling of not being in control. The solution is obvious. Take control. Look at the reality of the situation. Consider how you would prefer it to be and decide on what action you need to take. For example, suppose you experience driving stress because you're anxious about being late for appointments. Here are some actions you could take. Plan your journeys before making the appointments so that you don't create impossible schedules. Anticipate delays and leave early enough to allow for them. If you hit an unexpected delay, phone your destination and give a new arrival time. Think about situations that make you feel stressed and work out what actions will allow you to take control. Any illness or ailment can affect your driving. A common cold can slow your reactions, reduce your ability to concentrate and affect your vision. Even mild headaches are distracting. Severe headaches, such as migraine, can be debilitating. Only you can judge whether to drive when you're feeling ill. Obviously, if you're too ill to work, you're not fit to drive. But what about minor ailments? You might be tempted to dose yourself up with medicine and carry on as normal, but there could be side effects. Always ask your doctor or a pharmacist whether it's safe to drive when taking any particular drug. And read the packaging. If there's any mention of causing drowsiness or impairing judgment, either don't take the drug or don't drive. And never drink any alcohol if you've taken or if you're going to take any drug, even one that's safe on its own. Move on for advice on different types of drug. If you ever use any of these, it might be unsafe to drive. Click on any drug type for advice. It's obviously dangerous to take any form of sleep-inducing drug before driving. If you've taken sleeping pills, make sure you know how long they take to wear off, even after you wake up. Tranquilizers should only be used under direct medical supervision. Your doctor may well advise you not to drive while undergoing treatment. Some painkillers are safe to use when driving and some aren't. Always ask professional advice when buying painkillers and never take them from a friend without checking the packaging very carefully. Some cold remedies and decongestants contain amphetamines and antihistamines, and these should be avoided. Never drive after taking nighttime cold remedies. They're intended to knock you out. Some cough remedies contain opiates and other drowsiness-inducing substances. Take care. When you're prescribed any drugs by a doctor, always ask whether it's safe to take them before you drive. Even a small amount of alcohol impairs your driving ability. There's no such thing as a safe limit. The effects of alcohol depend on your weight and build, familiarity with drinking, and whether you have a full stomach. Women are usually affected more than men because they have a lower percentage of body fluid. At the legal limit, most drivers are 5 times more likely to have an accident than when they're sober, but they may feel safer. Over a third of drivers who die in crashes have been drinking. Late on Friday and Saturday nights, it's 2/3. And they kill other road users. Over a fifth of all road deaths are related to drink. Apart from the safety aspect, if you're convicted of driving over the limit, you'll lose your license for at least a year. If your job involves driving, you'll probably lose that too. You can be a safe driver and still enjoy the pleasures of drinking. Just make sure that you allow time for the effects to wear off. You may still be over the legal limit in the morning after an evening of heavy drinking. Move the slider to drink between 1 and 10 units of alcohol. Very few drivers will be at the lower end of the range of accident risk. If you're a woman, a small man who drinks infrequently, or an inexperienced driver, your risk of accident will be near the higher figure. Click on the Symptoms button to hear how your driving is likely to be affected. You're aware that you're definitely drunk. You may even feel ill. It's difficult to concentrate, and controlling the car requires considerable conscious effort. For high-risk drinkers, such as smaller women, an accident is very likely. Knowing the capabilities and limitations of your car lies at the heart of the roadworthy approach. In this module, you can explore how to assess the safety of your car and how to check that it's in a safe condition every time you drive it, what performance you can expect from your tyres over a range of conditions and how to care for them, and how your car is likely to behave near and beyond the limit of grip. In other words, how it handles. It's important to know how to assess car safety. Automotive engineers split safety into 2 types, primary and secondary. Primary safety encompasses all the features of a car that help you drive safely and avoid accidents. while secondary safety is the degree of protection given to the occupants in the event of a crash. Primary safety can be assessed by driving the car and maintained by routine checks. It's not just a car's agility in avoiding obstacles that makes it safe. A quiet, comfortable car has better primary safety than one that fatigues or distracts the driver. Secondary safety isn't something to verify through first-hand experience. We have to rely on the results of crash tests and statistical analysis. In general, larger cars offer better protection than smaller ones. Primary safety is affected by a car's road holding and handling. Braking performance, whether it has anti-lock brakes, is a significant factor. Visibility, including the seat height, the thickness of roof pillars, the coverage of the mirrors, the sweep of the wipers, and the range and spread of the headlights. Driving position and controls. Noise, vibration and ride comfort. Heating and ventilation system. The air quality and the climate inside the car influences the driver's level of alertness and ability to concentrate. Even if you've chosen a car that you consider to be safe, you still have to check it for safety defects on a regular basis. Move on to find out what to check. Click in turn on the features of this car. A safety checks box will appear, together with spoken advice. Carry out these checks on your own car. Check wheel nuts for tightness, particularly a few hundred miles after servicing or tyre replacement. Take care to avoid hitting curbs and check wheel rims regularly for damage. Looking after your tyres is vitally important. See the tyre grip topic. Keep your car's windows clean and clear of obstructions like stickers or mascots. Take care to avoid scratching the windscreen when you clean it. Keep luggage clear of the rear screen to avoid damaging the heating elements on the glass. Make sure all the mirrors are clean and properly adjusted. Check that all seatbelt mounting points are securely fixed, that belts aren't frayed or twisted, that all buckles fasten and release easily, and that all inertia reels run smoothly and lock immediately when jerked. Regularly check that all light bulbs, including the brake lights, are working. Check both filaments of the headlight bulbs. Keep all lenses clean and look out for cracks. Check that headlight beams are correctly aimed and that indicators flash between once and twice per second. Every time you drive, make sure your car's steering has none of these faults. Free play, wobble or vibration felt through the steering wheel, any undue stiffness, grating or squeaks when turned, excessive kickback when driving over bumps, a tendency to wander or to pull to one side, or not being centered when you're driving straight. If any of these faults occur, seek immediate mechanical attention. Always be alert for symptoms of suspension faults, wheels bouncing after hitting bumps, juddering from drive wheels when accelerating hard, a wallowing sensation over undulations, or any odd noises from the suspension. Suspension faults should always be rectified without delay. Check that the windscreen wipers work properly and quietly at all speeds. Keep wiper blades clean and replace them as soon as they start to smear the screen. Check that the windscreen washer is working properly and topped up with washer fluid. Don't forget the rear wiper and washer if you have one. Your life is literally riding on your tyres, so it's vital that you know what they're capable of and how to keep them performing at their best. Each tyre grips the road through a contact patch roughly the size of a man's footprint. If you apply a force to the tyre greater than its grip, it stops rolling and starts sliding, causing wheel spin with too much power, locked wheels with too much braking, or a skid if you try to turn too much. The maximum grip in any direction is shown by the distance from the contact patch to the edge of the oval. Forces in different directions can be combined, but the resultant force must stay within the oval or the tyre will slide. If you're using 90% of the tyre's braking grip, the red line, the maximum cornering grip the tyre can develop is shown by the green line. If you turn any more, the car will skid. The grip generated by any tyre depends on the friction between the road and the tyre. Move on to explore the effect of different surfaces. Every driver appreciates that stopping distances are longer and cornering speeds need to be lower on slippery surfaces. Move the slider bar to see just how much the grip oval changes size on different road surfaces. Tyre safety checks are vitally important. Please click on the tyre's check areas for advice. Tyres perform at their optimum only when they're at the right pressure for the load they're carrying. Incorrect pressures reduce road holding, upset handling, spoil ride comfort and increase wear. Check your tyre's pressures, including the spare, at least once a week and when the tyres are cold. Use your own accurate gauge. Service station gauges tend to get knocked about. Remember to refit the valve caps. Always set pressures as recommended in your car's handbook, making the necessary adjustment for heavy loads or sustained high speeds. The sidewalls of modern tyres, particularly low-profile tyres, are vulnerable to damage. Inspect them regularly for cuts, bulges and scuffs. In sidewalls too. If you find any sidewall damage, replace the tyre. The exact specification of a tyre is moulded onto its sidewall. If your car is brand new, the manufacturer will have fitted the correct tyres. But if you take over a car from another driver, make sure that all 4 tyres are as specified in the car's handbook. Be particularly careful with high-performance cars to check that the speed rating letter is high enough for the car's maximum speed. S is safe only up to 113 miles an hour. H to 130 miles per hour, V to 150 miles per hour and Z to over 150 miles an hour. When replacing tyres, make sure that the same make and model are fitted on all wheels. Mixing different tyres will give unpredictable handling. and avoid unknown brands and remolds. Look out for uneven tread wear. It's a symptom of a fault. A tyre that's worn more in the centre than at the edges has been overinflated, while excessive wear at both edges indicates underinflation. Wear on one edge usually indicates that the wheel is out of alignment, or if it's on the outer edges, it could be caused by poor cornering technique. A shallow patch of tread at one point on the circumference indicates that the wheel is out of balance. Remove stones and other debris from the treads while you're inspecting them. Check the depth of tread at several points around the tyre and across its width. Legally, the minimum tread depth is 1.6 millimetres across the central 3/4 of the width around the entire circumference. But it provides little resistance to aquaplaning. For safety's sake, replace tyres well before the tread is worn down to the legal minimum. Most cars wear out their front tyres more quickly than the rear ones. It's not a good idea to swap tyres round to even out their wear, as putting well-worn tyres on the rear could make the car spin on wet roads. Handling is a term used to describe a car's behaviour when cornering. This depends on the balance of grip, how it changes and how quickly it changes. Tyres generate cornering grip by running at an angle to the car's direction of travel. This is known as the slip angle. The greater the slip angle, the greater the grip, until at about 12 degrees the tyre slides sideways. A car is said to understeer when the slip angle is larger at the front, so the driver has to turn the wheel more than expected. A car oversteers when the slip angle's larger at the rear and the car feels twitchy, turning more than expected. When the front and back slip angles match, the car has neutral steering. Chassis engineers try to ensure that handling changes are predictable and gradual. Even so, a car's handling can change suddenly when the tyres reach the limit of their grip. Many drivers find this out too late. Take advantage of any opportunity to explore your car's handling in a safe place off the public highway. Move on to explore the handling characteristics of different types of car. Please click on any type of car. Four-wheel drive used to be found only on off-road Jeep-type cars. Now it's often fitted to high-performance road cars. These are usually derivatives of two-wheel drive models. Handling characteristics are similar to their two-wheel drive siblings, but with better balance at the limits of grip. Applying lots of power when cornering invariably increases the drive wheel's slip angles. In a two-wheel drive car, this happens at one end only, making the car unbalanced. But in a four-wheel drive car, the extra slip is minimal, because the power is distributed to all four wheels and occurs at both ends, so the car tends to drift neatly. Front-wheel drive cars usually understeer. Their centre of gravity is positioned well forward, so there's more side force acting on the front tyres, which have to generate more grip by running at larger slip angles than the rear tyres. The greater the power being transmitted through the front tyres, the more their slip angle has to increase to compensate for the loss of cornering grip. See the tyre grip topic for a fuller explanation. Understeer is pronounced in older designs of front-wheel drive cars, as you can see. But clever chassis design and development has now reduced it to a minimum. Most front-wheel drive cars are easy to control at the limit of their cornering grip. You simply decelerate. Then weight shifts forward and increases the front tyre's grip. The understeer reduces and the car comes back on course. However, in sporty versions of these cars, the basic handling is set up to be more neutral. If deceleration is too sudden, the forward weight shift may flick the car into oversteer. Most rear-wheel drive cars are front-engined, with the bias of their weight towards the front, but not as much as with front-wheel drive cars. They both tend to understeer at steady cornering speeds. Cars with perfect 50-50 weight distribution can be neutral in their handling, but their designers usually introduce a little understeer to aid stability. When more power is applied to the rear wheels, understeer tends to increase at first, but excessive power reduces the rear tyre's grip and leads to oversteer. Unless corrected by steering in the opposite direction and reducing power, the car will spin. Cars with rear engines tend to be most tricky. Once a slide has started, the heavy weight slung behind the rear wheels acts like a pendulum, and this can happen if the driver lifts off the throttle. In this section, you can explore basic applications of the roadworthy approach: observation, use of space and speed, signalling and control skills. To get the most from it, please read the Roadworthy User's Guide. In this module, you can explore the application of the roadworthy approach to observation. You'll get maximum understanding and benefit from it if you've read the notes on this section in the Roadworthy User's Guide, particularly what's said about perception and awareness. The way we look at the world hasn't yet caught up with the mechanical age. Our visual awareness is perfectly adequate for a creature that moves at walking pace, but not for one that moves much faster. That's why special observational techniques are needed for driving. The roadworthy approach increases visual awareness by addressing 5 aspects of observation: pattern of eye movement, focal distance, peripheral vision, observation to the rear, and mental trigger patterns. Click on any aspect to explore it further. If you want to see the whole driving picture, keep your eyes moving. Obviously, if you stare at one thing, you miss big chunks of the picture. But if you move your eyes at random, you waste time looking at irrelevant things, so you need a controlled pattern of eye movement. You can take in an image by looking at it for about half a second, and that's as long as it takes to judge its importance. Adjust your pattern of eye movement so you look most frequently at the most important images. So when you're driving on a motorway with little traffic, your eye movement is mostly over the central part of the picture and the rear view mirrors. And when driving along a busy city street, your eyes move pretty evenly across your whole field of view. If you haven't enough time to take in all the important features around you, slow down until you have. Looking further ahead is the easiest single way to improve your driving. At a stroke, it enhances both the quality of your driving decisions and the smoothness and accuracy of your driving actions. But many drivers habitually look no further than the point they'll reach in a few seconds. To give yourself ample time to weigh up situations and to react to them calmly, you need to look 20 to 30 seconds ahead. On a motorway, that's at least half a mile. In heavy traffic, it's easy to find yourself staring at the vehicle ahead. When every driver in a queue does this, the last driver may not react to a hazard until some seconds after the first, perhaps leading to a nose-to-tail collision. By looking well beyond the front of the queue, you can react at the same time as the leading driver and steer clear of trouble. Most of us have got into the habit of ignoring our peripheral vision. Reversing that process and learning to make full use of peripheral vision raises visual awareness. Peripheral vision isn't sharp, but it can provide good information on distance, colour and movement. And that's all you need in many cases for positioning or detecting danger. How do you judge the position of your car in bends? Check next time you drive. Quite likely you'll find yourself looking down at the edge or middle of the road. But by doing this, you're not looking far enough ahead. Try this experiment. As you drive through a series of open bends, keep looking at a point in the distance, not at the foreground. You'll find that you can steer accurately using your peripheral vision. You don't need a sharp image to be aware of danger beside you. A pedestrian about to run into the road can be seen out of the corner of your eye as a sudden blur of colour. Responding to the blur immediately without moving your eyes first could literally be the difference between life and death. Your view to the rear contributes a lot to your overall awareness. Link the frequency of mirror checks to the level of activity behind. Scan all mirrors for the best view, but never take your eyes off the road ahead for more than a moment. Always look behind when it's relevant, so check before changing speed or course. Look well behind, particularly on roads carrying fast-moving traffic. A speck in your mirrors one moment could overtake you at high speed the next. And use peripheral vision. You don't have to look straight at the mirrors to know what's happening behind. Check it out. Total awareness includes an awareness of blind spots. The coverage of mirrors is restricted. Always look round before moving off, when joining a road at an angle, before turning at junctions where cyclists could slip through on the near side, or at any other time when you need to know what may be in a blind spot. You can learn to use simple visual cues to trigger your awareness of important features. For example, if a red triangle acts as a trigger, you quickly spot warning signs. Reacting to a trigger is far quicker than thinking, but it takes some effort to set up the trigger in the first place, and you've got to keep reinforcing it. Next time you drive, choose a type of feature that you want to be particularly aware of, such as warning signs, road markings or other driver's signals, and notice how many more of these you see than normal and how much earlier you spot them. Gradually set up triggers for all important visual features and keep reinforcing them. Space and speed are inseparable. You constantly have to balance one against the other. Your speed determines how much clear space you need to be safe, while how much space you have available determines your maximum safe speed. It's when space and speed get out of balance that accidents occur. In this module you can explore the minimum safe separation distance between your car and those around you, which factors determine your maximum safe speed at any moment, and the optimum position for your car on the road. Here's an opportunity for you to exercise your judgment on following distances and explore the consequences in complete safety. Imagine you're driving along this straight and level road in a car with good brakes and tyres. Use the Speed button to select the speed of the traffic flow and the Surface button to select a dry or wet surface. Position the car symbol at what you judge to be the minimum safe following distance for your choice of speed and surface. Then click on the car to see the consequences. You haven't taken the wet road sufficiently into account. If the car ahead should stop very suddenly, your speed could still be around 30 miles an hour when you hit it, so you risk being injured. Tailgaters. How do you deal with drivers who insist on following far too closely? Do you maintain your present speed and position? Increase your speed? Slow down gently and add a second to your forward gap? Or slow down gently and double your forward gap? Click on the option that's closest to your normal response to tailgaters. Consider what would happen if the car ahead stopped suddenly, assuming you're following it at a safe distance. By braking hard, you'd stop without hitting it. But the car behind is so close, it's bound to hit you before its driver has time to brake. Try another option. Speeding up will make matters worse. You'll reduce your forward safety gap, but the driver behind is unlikely to increase his. So if the car in front should suddenly stop, you'll have too little space to avoid hitting it, and the following car won't be able to stop either. You run the risk here of being the meat in the sandwich. Try another option. This is a wise choice, doing what's sometimes called driving on the brakes of the driver behind. Adding that extra second to your gap is enough to allow you to stop safely if the need arises, and there's time to warn the tailgater with your brake lights and let him brake hard first so he can stop safely as well. This is an overly defensive response which could put you at risk in other ways. By extending your gap so much, you can cope with an emergency ahead and still give the driver behind plenty of time to respond. But such pronounced pulling back might provoke such an impatient driver into acting rashly though, for example by overtaking where it's unsafe or illegal. Please try another option. Why do most drivers leave far too little space between their cars and other vehicles when it can so easily lead to this? You may get away with leaving just enough room to react to brake lights, but when cars stop dead without warning, you need the full stopping distance. But memorizing a table of distances won't help you to judge a safe distance. You may use a rule of thumb like the 2-second rule. Your car should pass any point at least 2 seconds after the car ahead, but beware. 2 seconds is enough below 50 miles per hour and on a dry road surface, but over 50 you need 3 seconds. When it's wet, you need to double the gap and at least double it again when it's icy. Or your judgment may be based on balancing the conflicting feelings of wasting space and needing space. It's the method that most drivers use, but it's stressful and unreliable. Roadworthy drivers' judgment is based on feeling comfortable. If they feel uncomfortable with their forward gap, they drop back. So there's no stress and they tend to leave more space. Feeling comfortable about using space often comes from changing your beliefs. Do you believe you shouldn't waste road space? Consider this though, there is no better use of road space than as a means of preserving safety. But hanging back wastes time, right? Wrong. The separation distance between your car and the one ahead makes no difference to your journey time. Try to see space as something tangible and desirable, so you feel comfortable when you have it and uncomfortable when you haven't. You may find it helpful to visualize your car traveling inside a bubble of open space, a safety bubble. Here's an opportunity for you to exercise your judgment on following distances and explore the consequences in complete safety. Imagine you're driving along this straight and level road in a car. Good. You've judged that well. You really do need this much separation distance to be safe at 60 miles an hour on a wet road. If the car ahead should stop very suddenly, you'll just have time to react and brake to a standstill before you hit it. Tailgaters. How do you deal with drivers who insist on following far too closely? Do you maintain your present speed and position? Increase your speed? Slow down gently and add a second to your forward gap? Or slow down gently and double your forward gap? Click on the option that's closest to your normal response to tailgaters. Why do most drivers leave far too little space between their cars and other vehicles when it can so easily lead to this? You may get away with leaving just enough room to react to brake lights, but when cars stop dead without warning, you need the full stopping distance. But memorizing a table of distances won't help you to judge a safe distance. You may use a rule of thumb like the 2-second rule. Your car should pass any point at least 2 seconds after the car ahead, but beware. 2 seconds is enough below 50 miles per hour and on a dry road surface, but over 50 you need 3 seconds. When it's wet, you need to double the gap and at least double it again when it's icy. Or your judgment may be based on balancing the conflicting feelings of wasting space and needing space. It's the method that most drivers use, but it's stressful and unreliable. Roadworthy drivers' judgment is based on feeling comfortable. If they feel uncomfortable with their forward gap, they drop back. so there's no stress and they tend to leave more space. Feeling comfortable about using space often comes from changing your beliefs. Do you believe you shouldn't waste road space? Consider this though, there is no better use of road space than as a means of preserving safety. But hanging back wastes time, right? Wrong. The separation distance between your car and the one ahead makes no difference to your journey time. Try to see space as something tangible and desirable, so you feel comfortable when you have it and uncomfortable when you haven't. You may find it helpful to visualize your car traveling inside a bubble of open. Here's an opportunity for you to exercise your judgment on following distances and explore the consequences in complete safety. Imagine you're driving along this straight and level road in a car with good brakes and tyres. Use the Speed button to select the speed of the traffic flow and the Surface button to select a dry or wet surface. In this module, you can explore the roadworthy approach to signalling. Signalling is an important but undervalued skill requiring forethought and precision. Poor signalling surprises and confuses other road users and sometimes causes accidents. Before any manoeuvre, you need to ask 4 questions about signalling. Who needs a signal? Which signal is best? When do I signal? When do I stop signalling? Click on any question to explore it further. Signalling is a means of communicating with others. Look around. Can you see any road user, not just drivers, who would be affected by your intended manoeuvre? Yes? Then consider signalling for their benefit. Even if you can't see anyone, could anyone be near enough to be affected but out of view at present? If not, there's no point in signalling. It's important to select the signal that best conveys your intentions. Signalling shouldn't be done out of habit. Select only from the signals shown in the highway code and use them to convey their standard meanings. Consider whether a signal could be misinterpreted. Sometimes you can clarify its meaning by combining it with another, like this. You want to enter a driveway near a busy junction. If you signal like this, other drivers might form a queue behind you, assuming that you're turning at the junction. When you wait here, the drivers behind get annoyed and frustrated. You can clarify your intention to turn into the driveway by giving an arm signal as well, just before stopping. Your pointing arm effectively says to the following drivers, "Look, this is where I'm turning." Sometimes the best signal is no signal. Here you need to change lanes to avoid the obstruction. If you signal left, the driver at the junction may assume that you're turning and do this. Better to simply change lanes smoothly and early. Signals must be well timed. Early enough to give plenty of notice of your intentions, but not so early that they mislead. As a rule of thumb, signal about 4 seconds before you start to make any change of course or speed. In some situations, timing is critical. Other road users will assume that any signal refers to the next likely action. For example, here you shouldn't signal until the turning you intend to take is the next one along. But how often do you see this? Similarly, take care if you intend to stop on the left just past a turning. We hope you've enjoyed your training session with RoadWorthy. Please see the RoadWorthy User's Guide for a summary of the modules you've viewed and try out the suggested activities next time you drive.